Lihana wiped the sweat from her forehead as she cleaned the massive crystal windows of the Valerian Imperial Palace. The twin suns outside made the work hot and tiring. She was the only human working in the palace, and most days she felt very alone among all the tall blue aliens who ran the empire. The Valerians were strange creatures. They had smooth blue skin that could change colors when they felt different emotions. Their arms were long and thin, and they had 6 of them instead of 2 like humans. Their eyes were huge and round, almost like the eyes of insects back on Earth. When they walked, they moved in a flowing way that reminded Hana of dancers. Hana had been working at the palace for 2 years now. She came to this planet because she needed work, and the Valerians paid well for human servants. They thought humans were interesting curiosities like exotic pets that could talk and clean. Most of the Valerian staff treated her kindly enough, but they never really saw her as an equal. The head butler, whose name was Thekmol, always watched her work with suspicious eyes. He had dark blue skin that showed his age and authority. At first, he tried to stop Hana from humming while she worked. Human music was strange to Valerian ears, but even Thekmol had to admit that her humming made the other servants work better and feel happier. On this particular morning, Hana was arranging flowers in the great throne room. These were not ordinary flowers like the ones on Earth. Valerian flowers glowed with their own light and pulsed in rhythm with the planet's magnetic field. The colors were beautiful but alien, purples and blues that seemed to shift and dance as she watched them. The throne room was enormous, with a ceiling so high that Hana could barely see the top. The walls were made of crystal that caught the light from outside and threw rainbows everywhere. In the center of the room sat the crystal throne, carved from a single piece of clear stone that sparkled like a diamond. Emperor Veltar was supposed to hold court in this room later that day. Hana had only seen him a few times from a distance. He was taller than most Valerians, with skin that shimmered between blue and silver. His 6 arms moved with perfect grace, and when he spoke, his voice had musical tones that could be felt as well as heard. As Hana worked with the flowers, she thought about her life before coming to this planet. She had been a medical student on Earth, studying to become a doctor, but her family lost all their money when her father's business failed. She had to quit school and find work to help support her parents and younger brother. Coming to work for the Valerians paid enough money to send home and help her family survive. Sometimes she missed using her medical knowledge. The Valerians had their own doctors and healers, and they did not trust human medicine. They thought human healing methods were primitive and crude. Valerian medicine used crystals and energy fields to heal the body. It worked well for them, but it was very different from what Hana had learned in medical school. The morning was quiet and peaceful, until a loud crash echoed through the palace halls. The sound came from the direction of the emperor's private rooms. Hana dropped her cleaning cloth and ran toward the noise. Her human reflexes were faster than those of the Valerian servants, and she reached the emperor's chambers first. The guards outside the door were standing frozen with shock. Through the open doorway, Hana could see Emperor Veltar lying on the floor. His normally blue skin was flickering between pale silver and deep purple. His 6 arms were clutching at his chest, and his breathing came in short, painful gasps. Hana did not think about protocol or her position as a servant. She rushed into the room and knelt beside the emperor. The guards shouted at her to stop, but she ignored them. Her medical training kicked in automatically as she assessed the emperor's condition. The emperor's skin was cold and clammy to the touch. His primary heart, located in the center of his chest, was beating very fast and irregularly. Valerians had 2 hearts, a primary one that pumped blood to the brain and vital organs, and a secondary one that helped with circulation to their long limbs. Hana could feel that both hearts were struggling. "Get back, human," one of the guards ordered. "You have no right to touch the emperor." "He's having a heart attack," Hana said firmly. "If we don't help him now, he will die." The guards looked at each other uncertainly. They had been trained to protect the emperor from enemies, not to help with medical emergencies. The nearest Valerian hospital was at least 20 minutes away by transport. The royal doctors would take time to arrive with their equipment. Hana pressed her ear to the emperor's chest and listened carefully. She had studied Valerian anatomy during her time at the palace, knowing it might be useful someday. The primary heart was definitely in trouble, beating too fast and skipping beats. The secondary heart was trying to compensate, but was not strong enough to handle the full load. "Stand back and let me work," Hana commanded with authority she did not know she possessed. The guards hesitated. Taking orders from a human servant went against everything they had been taught. But the Emperor was clearly dying, and this strange human seemed to know what she was doing. Hana began chest compressions, but she had to modify the technique for Valyrian anatomy. She placed her hands over the primary heart and pressed down in a steady rhythm. At the same time, she instructed two of the guards to apply pressure to specific points along the Emperor's sides, where the secondary circulatory system could be stimulated. "Press here, firmly but gently," she told them, guiding their hands to the right spots. "Keep the pressure steady and follow my count." The technique was something she had improvised based on her knowledge of both human and Valyrian physiology. She had never tried it before, but the principles of cardiac resuscitation were universal. The heart needed help pumping blood, and manual compression could provide that help until proper medical treatment arrived. Slowly, Emperor Veltar's skin began to stabilize. The dangerous purple color faded, and his breathing became more regular. The compressions were working, but Hana knew she would have to keep them up until the royal doctors arrived with their equipment. As she worked, more palace staff began to gather in the doorway. Word was spreading quickly that the human servant was performing some kind of alien medical procedure on the Emperor himself. The sight was unprecedented and shocking to everyone who saw it. Hana ignored the growing crowd and focused on her patient. Her arms were already getting tired from the continuous compressions, but she could not stop. The Emperor's life depended on her keeping his heart beating until help arrived. Park Jisoo was working in the palace security office when the emergency alarm started ringing. As the human liaison officer, she was responsible for all the humans who worked in the Imperial complex. There were only 12 humans in the entire palace, and Jisoo knew each one personally. When she heard that Hana was involved in some kind of medical emergency with the Emperor, she dropped everything and ran. The corridors of the palace were filled with confused Valyrian servants and guards. Everyone was talking in excited whispers about what was happening in the Emperor's chambers. Jisoo pushed through the crowds, using her security clearance to get past the barriers that were being set up to keep people away. When she reached the Emperor's rooms, she found an incredible scene. Hana was kneeling beside Emperor Veltar, pressing her hands rhythmically on his chest. Two palace guards were following her instructions, applying pressure to specific points on the Emperor's body. The Emperor's skin had changed from the dangerous purple color to a more stable pale blue. "The medical team is coming," Jisoo announced breathlessly. Hana looked up briefly but did not stop her chest compressions. "His main heart is beating wrong," she explained while continuing to work. "The second heart cannot handle all the blood by itself. If I stop pressing on his chest, both hearts will fail and he will die." The palace guards exchanged worried looks. They had never seen anything like this before. In Valyrian culture, touching the Emperor without permission was a serious crime. But this human servant was not just touching him. She was performing some kind of primitive medical procedure on his body. "Are you sure you know what you are doing?" asked Captain Yolden, the head of the Imperial Guard. His skin showed the orange color of anxiety and doubt. "I studied medicine before I came here," Hana replied firmly. "Human hearts and Valyrian hearts work differently, but the basic principles are the same. His heart muscle is not contracting properly. These compressions help squeeze the blood through his body until the doctors can fix the problem." Jisoo watched in amazement as Hana continued her work. She had known that Hana was intelligent and hardworking, but she had no idea that the quiet cleaning woman had medical training. The sight of a human saving the most powerful being in the Empire was both inspiring and terrifying. Dr. Seo Wubin arrived carrying a large medical kit. He was the senior human doctor stationed at the palace, originally assigned to take care of the human workers. When he saw what Hana was doing, his eyes widened with surprise and respect. "How long has she been doing compressions?" he asked Jisoo. "About 10 minutes, Captain Yolden answered. "The human claims the Emperor will die if she stops." Dr. Seo quickly opened his medical kit and pulled out a device that could measure heart rhythms. He carefully placed the sensors on the Emperor's chest without interfering with Hana's work. The readings confirmed what she had been saying. The Emperor's primary heart was in severe distress. "She's right," Dr. Seo announced. "The primary cardiac muscle is in arrhythmia. Without external support, it will go into complete failure." Just then, the Royal Valyrian physicians burst through the doorway. There were 5 of them, led by Dr. Kethvar, the Emperor's personal physician. Dr. Kethvar was ancient even by Valyrian standards, with skin so dark blue it was almost black. He carried the traditional healing crystals and energy devices that Valyrian medicine had used for thousands of years. "Remove this human from the Emperor immediately," Dr. Kethvar commanded in a voice that shook with authority. "Your primitive methods are harming his imperial body." "My methods are keeping him alive," Hana replied without stopping her compressions. "His heart rhythm has stabilized since I started treatment. If I stop now, he goes into cardiac arrest." Dr. Kethvar's skin flushed with the red color of anger. "Humans know nothing of Valyrian physiology. Our healing methods have served the Empire for millennia. You will cease this barbaric touching immediately." The tension in the room grew thick as the two medical traditions faced off over the Emperor's life. The Valyrian doctors began setting up their crystal healing arrays, devices that would normally take 30 minutes to properly calibrate. Their method focused on restoring the natural energy balance of the body, a process that was highly effective but required significant time to implement. Dr. SEO stepped forward diplomatically. "Honored physicians, perhaps we could combine our approaches. The human method provides immediate mechanical support while your energy healing addresses the root cause of the problem." "Impossible," Dr. Kethvar declared. "Crude physical manipulation interferes with the energy frequencies required for proper healing. The human must be removed." Emperor Veltar himself made a weak sound trying to speak. Everyone in the room fell silent as they leaned in to hear his words. His voice was barely a whisper, but his meaning was clear. "Let her continue," he managed to say. "I can feel the difference. The pain is less when she presses." This created an impossible situation for the Valyrian doctors. They could not ignore a direct order from the Emperor, but they also could not accept that human medicine might be superior to their own ancient methods. Dr. Kethvar's skin cycled through several colors as he struggled with this conflict. Minister Kim Haesung, the senior human diplomat, arrived at that moment. He took in the scene quickly, a human servant performing emergency medicine on the Emperor while Valyrian physicians stood by with their traditional equipment. The political implications were staggering. "This situation must be handled very carefully," he whispered to Dr. Seo. "If Hana's treatment fails, humans could be blamed for the Emperor's death. If it succeeds, it challenges everything the Valyrians believe about their medical superiority." Dr. Seo nodded grimly. "But right now her treatment is the only thing keeping him alive. Look at the monitor readings. His condition improved dramatically as soon as she started compressions." Meanwhile, Hana continued her work, sweat dripping from her forehead. Her arms were burning with fatigue, but she maintained the steady rhythm that was keeping the Emperor's blood flowing. She could feel his pulse under her hands, still irregular but stronger than when she had started. "I need someone to take over for a few minutes," she said. "My arms are getting tired, and the compressions need to stay consistent." Dr. Seo immediately stepped forward. "Show me the exact hand position and rhythm." Hana guided his hands to the correct spots on the Emperor's chest. "Press down about 2 inches, 30 compressions per minute. Feel for the primary heart here and make sure you're not putting pressure on the secondary circulation pathways." The transfer was smooth and professional. Dr. Seo took over the compressions while Hana moved to monitor the Emperor's other vital signs. She checked his breathing, examined his skin color, and felt for pulses in his extremities. "His circulation is improving," she reported. "The secondary heart is handling the reduced load better now." Dr. Kethvar watched this exchange with growing fascination despite his opposition. The human methods were crude and direct, but they were clearly producing results that his instruments could measure. As the crisis continued, it became clear that this was more than just a medical emergency. It was a clash between two completely different ways of understanding healing and medicine, with the life of the most important person in the Empire hanging in the balance. The Emperor's chamber had become a battlefield between two completely different ways of thinking about medicine. On one side stood the ancient Valyrian healers with their crystal arrays and energy devices. On the other side was a small group of humans using direct physical methods that the Valyrians considered primitive and crude. Dr. Kethvar began arranging his healing crystals in a complex pattern around the Emperor's body. Each crystal was a different color and size, chosen specifically for treating heart problems. The crystals hummed with energy as they were activated, creating a soft musical sound that filled the room. This was the traditional Valyrian way, gentle, harmonious, and respectful of the body's natural energy flows. But the crystal healing process required careful preparation. The energy fields had to be perfectly balanced, and any disruption could make the treatment ineffective or even dangerous. Dr. Kethvar kept glancing at Hana and Dr. Sio as they continued their chest compressions, clearly frustrated that their physical intervention was interfering with his energy readings. The crude pressing is creating vibrations that disrupt the harmonic frequencies, Dr. Kethvar complained. How can we achieve proper energy balance when the body is being mechanically agitated? Hana looked up from monitoring the Emperor's pulse. Your energy healing might work eventually, but his heart will stop before you finish setting up. These compressions are keeping blood flowing to his brain right now. The argument was interrupted when Princess Mirai entered the room. She was the Emperor's eldest daughter and heir to the throne. Unlike many Valyrians who saw humans as interesting but inferior creatures, Princess Mirai had spent years studying human culture and technology. Her skin showed the confident golden color that marked imperial authority. "What is the current condition of my father?" she asked in a voice that commanded immediate attention. Dr. Kethvar bowed deeply. "Your Highness, the Emperor suffered cardiac distress. We are preparing the traditional healing protocols, but this human servant is interfering with our methods." Princess Mirai walked closer to examine what Hana and Dr. Seo were doing. She watched the steady rhythm of the chest compressions and observed how the Emperor's skin color had stabilized since the treatment began. Her large eyes tracked the monitoring devices that Dr. Seo had connected to her father's body. "Show me the medical readings," she commanded. Dr. Seo immediately displayed the heart rhythm monitor for her to see. "Your Highness, when we arrived, the Emperor's primary heart was in severe arrhythmia, and his secondary heart was failing to compensate. The manual compressions have stabilized both cardiac functions." Princess Mirai studied the data carefully. She had received education in both Valyrian and human sciences as part of her training to rule a diverse empire. While she respected the ancient traditions of her people, she also understood the value of practical results. "Dr. Kethvar," she said, "how long will your crystal array require to become fully operational?" "At least 20 more minutes, Your Highness," the elderly physician replied. "Proper energy alignment cannot be rushed without risking harm to the patient." "And if the human compressions cease during that time?" Dr. Seo answered honestly. Based on the current readings, the Emperor's heart would likely go into complete failure within minutes. The princess made her decision with the swift authority that would one day make her a great empress. "We will continue the human intervention while the traditional healing is prepared. Once the crystal array is ready, we will evaluate how to combine both methods safely." Dr. Kethvar's skin turned a deeper shade of blue, showing his distress at this decision. "Your Highness, combining crude physical methods with sacred energy healing is unprecedented. We do not know what effects this might have. We also do not know what effects my father's death would have on the Empire," Princess Mirai replied firmly. "The human method is producing measurable improvements in his condition. We will proceed with both approaches." This royal decree changed the entire dynamic in the room. The Valyrian physicians had no choice but to accept the princess's decision, even though it went against everything they believed about proper medical practice. They continued setting up their equipment while casting uncertain glances at the humans, who were still working directly on the Emperor's body. Minister Kim Hae-sung watched these developments with growing amazement and concern. In just 1 hour, the relationship between humans and Valyrians in the Empire had been turned upside down. A human servant was not only touching the sacred body of the Emperor, but was being officially permitted to continue doing so by the imperial heir herself. "This will have consequences far beyond the medical emergency," he whispered to General Nam Ji-hoon, who had just arrived to assess the security situation. "If word spreads that human medicine saved the Emperor's life, it could change how our people are viewed throughout the Empire." General Nam nodded grimly. "It could also create resentment among those who believe we are overstepping our place in their society. We need to be very careful about how this situation is presented to the public." Meanwhile, Hana continued her work with quiet determination. She had taken over the compressions again from Dr. Seo, whose hands were not quite as strong as hers. The Emperor's condition remained stable, but she knew that the real test would come when they tried to integrate the Valyrian healing methods with her mechanical support. "His pulse is getting stronger," she reported. The secondary heart is starting to work more effectively now that the primary heart has support. Dr. Kethavar finished arranging the last of his healing crystals and activated the energy field. The crystals began to glow with soft light and the musical humming sound grew louder. The energy field was designed to encourage the body's natural healing processes and restore normal heart rhythm. The harmonic frequency is now properly calibrated, Dr. Kethavar announced. But I must warn that any interruption of the energy flow could cause the treatment to fail catastrophically. This created a new challenge. Hana's chest compressions were keeping the Emperor alive, but they might interfere with the energy healing that could provide a permanent cure. The two medical approaches had to work together somehow, but no one had ever tried to combine them before. Princess Mirai stepped forward to address both medical teams. Dr. Kethavar, can your energy healing work around the physical compressions? It is possible, the elderly physician admitted reluctantly. The energy field can be modified to account for the mechanical vibrations. However, this has never been attempted before. And Dr. Seo, can you adjust your method to work with the energy treatment? We can try to synchronize the compressions with the energy pulses, Dr. Seo replied. If we time everything correctly, the two methods might actually enhance each other. What followed was the most unusual medical collaboration in the history of either species. Hana continued her chest compressions while Dr. Kethavar adjusted his crystal array to work around her. Movements. Dr. Seo monitored the heart rhythm and called out timing adjustments to help synchronize the treatments. The integration was delicate and required constant communication between the human and Valyrian medical teams. Hana had to learn to adjust her compression rhythm to match the energy pulses from the crystals. Dr. Kethavar had to modify his traditional techniques to account for the mechanical intervention he had spent his entire career opposing. Slowly, remarkably, it began to work. The Emperor's heart rhythm became more stable as the combined treatments took effect. His skin color improved from pale blue to a healthier, darker shade. His breathing became deeper and more regular. The integration is successful, Dr. Kethavar announced with obvious surprise in his voice. The mechanical support is actually enhancing the effectiveness of the energy healing. Princess Mirai smiled with relief and satisfaction. Perhaps our two peoples have more to learn from each other than we previously realized. The next few hours became a careful dance between human and Valyrian medicine. Hana remained at the Emperor's side, her hands never leaving his chest as she maintained the life-saving compressions. Around her, the Valyrian healing crystals hummed with energy, their soft light filling the room with an otherworldly glow. Dr. Choi Yunho had been called in from the human medical facility outside the palace. He was a specialist in alien biology, one of the few humans who had studied Valyrian anatomy in detail. When he saw what was happening in the Emperor's chamber, he immediately understood the historic nature of the moment. "This is unprecedented," he whispered to Dr. Seo. "We are witnessing the birth of an entirely new form of medicine." The integration process required constant adjustment and communication. Hana had to learn to feel the rhythm of the energy pulses from the crystals and time her compressions to match them. It was like learning to dance with a partner she could not see, following music she could only feel through her hands on the Emperor's chest. Dr. Kethavar, despite his initial resistance, found himself fascinated by the human approach. He began asking Hana questions about human cardiac medicine, trying to understand how mechanical compression could be so effective. His ancient prejudices against human methods were slowly giving way to scientific curiosity. "Your species achieves immediate results through direct intervention," he observed, watching Hana work. "Our methods require patience but provide deeper healing. Perhaps there is wisdom in combining both approaches." The Emperor's recovery was gradual but steady. His primary heart began beating more regularly as the crystal energy helped repair the damaged muscle tissue. The secondary heart, relieved of its excessive workload by Hana's compressions, started to function normally again. His skin color continued to improve, showing the healthy blue shade that indicated good circulation. Princess Mirai stayed in the room throughout the entire process, observing every detail of the combined treatment. She asked questions of both the human and Valyrian medical teams, clearly fascinated by how the two different approaches could work together. Her presence also ensured that no one could later claim the humans had acted without imperial permission. "Tell me about human medical training," she asked Dr. Choi during a quiet moment. How do your people learn to heal? Dr. Choi explained how human doctors studied anatomy by examining actual bodies, learned to perform surgery with their hands, and practiced emergency medicine in situations where quick action meant the difference between life and death. This was very different from Valerian medical education, which focused on understanding energy flows and the harmonious balance of natural forces. Your methods seem harsh, Princess Mirai commented, but they are also remarkably effective in crisis situations. Human medicine developed from necessity, Dr. Choi replied. Throughout our history, humans have faced dangers that required immediate response. We learned to act quickly and decisively because waiting often meant death. As the hours passed, more palace officials began to arrive. Word had spread throughout the imperial complex that something extraordinary was happening in the emperor's chambers. The sight of humans and Valerians working together to save the emperor's life challenged many assumptions about the relationship between the two species. Lieutenant Colonel Oh Tae-hyun, the head of human security, watched the proceedings with amazement. 6 hours ago, humans were considered useful servants, he said to Minister Kim. Now one of our people is quite literally holding the emperor's life in her hands. The political implications were enormous. If the emperor survived, it would be largely due to human medical intervention. This would force the entire empire to reconsider their view of human capabilities and knowledge. If he died, humans might be blamed for interfering with traditional healing methods. Hana herself remained focused entirely on her patient. Her arms ached from hours of continuous compressions, but she refused all offers to take breaks. She had developed an intuitive sense of the emperor's condition, able to feel through her hands how his heart was responding to the combined treatment. His pulse is getting stronger, she reported regularly. The rhythm is more stable now. I think the energy healing is starting to repair the damage to the heart muscle. Dr. Kethvar monitored his instruments carefully, adjusting the crystal array as needed to maintain optimal energy flow. He had begun to appreciate how Hana's mechanical support created a stable foundation that allowed his energy healing to work more effectively. The harmonic resonance is improving, he announced. The physical support is actually helping the energy penetrate deeper into the cardiac tissue. As evening approached, the emperor began to show signs of regaining consciousness. His eyes opened briefly and he tried to speak. His voice was weak, but his words were clear enough for everyone to hear. "Who is healing me?" he asked in a whisper. Princess Mirai leaned close to her father. The human servant Hana has been providing cardiac support, while Dr. Kethvar administers energy healing. They are working together to save your life. The emperor's eyes found Hana, who was still maintaining her steady compressions. "A human," he said with wonder in his voice. "You are keeping my heart beating." "Yes, Your Majesty," Hana replied simply. "Your heart needed help, so I am helping it." The emperor managed a weak smile. Such directness, so different from our ways, yet so effective. This brief conversation marked a turning point in the emperor's recovery. His consciousness was returning, which meant that blood flow to his brain was adequate. The combined treatment was working better than anyone had dared to hope. Dr. Seo began preparing for the next phase of treatment. "We need to start transitioning from manual compressions to mechanical support," he explained to both medical teams. "The emperor's heart is stronger now, but it still needs assistance." This required bringing in specialized equipment from the human medical facility. The devices were crude by Valerian standards, but they could provide the precise mechanical support needed to gradually reduce Hana's direct intervention. The transition had to be done very carefully. If the mechanical support failed or was improperly calibrated, the emperor's condition could deteriorate rapidly. Hana would need to maintain her compressions while the machines were connected and tested. "I will stay with the machines," she insisted. "If something goes wrong, I can take over immediately." Dr. Kethvar looked at the human medical devices with curiosity rather than suspicion. "These machines can replicate the compression technique exactly. They can maintain perfect rhythm and pressure," Dr. Choi explained, "but they lack the ability to sense changes and adapt instantly like human hands can." The mechanical transition took another 2 hours to complete. Throughout the process, Hana remained ready to resume manual compressions if needed. The emperor's condition remained stable, as the machines gradually took over the work her hands had been doing. Finally, after nearly 12 hours of continuous treatment, Hana was able to step back from the emperor's bedside. Her hands were cramped and sore. Her back ached from bending over the patient, and exhaustion showed clearly on her face. But Emperor Veltar was alive and stable. "You have done something remarkable today," Princess Mire told her. "You have not only saved my father's life, but you have shown our people that human knowledge and Valyrian wisdom can work together to achieve what neither could accomplish alone." As the immediate crisis passed, everyone in the room began to understand that they had witnessed something that would change the relationship between humans and Valyrians forever. 3 days had passed since the Emperor's heart attack, and his recovery had been remarkable. The combination of human mechanical support and Valyrian energy healing had worked better than anyone had expected. Emperor Veltar was now sitting up in bed, his skin showing the healthy blue color of complete recovery. His 6 arms moved with their normal grace, and his voice had regained its characteristic musical tones. Throughout his recovery, Hana had remained nearby, monitoring his condition and adjusting the treatment as needed. She had barely slept during those 3 days, catching only brief naps in a chair beside his bed. The other palace servants looked at her with new respect and wonder. She was no longer just the strange human cleaning woman. She was the person who had saved the Emperor's life. On the morning of the 4th day, Emperor Veltar made an announcement that shocked everyone in the palace. He called for a formal assembly of the imperial court, something that had not happened in over a year. Word spread quickly throughout the palace, and beyond that, the Emperor would make an important declaration about the human who had saved his life. The great crystal hall filled with nobles, officials, and representatives from across the empire. Valyrian society was highly structured, with each person's position clearly defined by their skin color, their family history, and their role in the imperial hierarchy. Humans had always existed at the very bottom of this structure, useful but not particularly important. Hana stood before the crystal throne wearing the same simple cleaning uniform she had worn on the day of the emergency. She had refused Princess Mire's offer of formal court dress, saying that she wanted to appear as herself, not as someone pretending to be something she was not. Her plain human appearance stood out starkly among the elegant Valyrians in their flowing robes and jeweled ornaments. Emperor Veltar rose from his throne, his movement smooth and powerful despite his recent illness. The assembled court fell silent as he prepared to speak. When the Emperor addressed the court formally, his words carried the weight of imperial law and could change the fate of entire worlds. Citizens of the Empire. His voice resonated through the hall with perfect clarity. 3 days ago, death came for us in our own chambers. Our heart failed, and by all medical knowledge, we should have died within minutes. The Emperor paused, his large eyes scanning the assembled crowd before focusing on Hana. But we did not die, because this human, Hana, acted with courage and skill that saved our life. When our own physicians required time to prepare their treatments, she provided immediate aid with her own hands and knowledge. A murmur ran through the crowd. Many of the assembled nobles had heard rumors about what happened, but to hear the Emperor himself confirm that a human servant had saved his life was still shocking. In Valyrian tradition, the Emperor continued, a life debt creates bonds that transcend all other considerations. This human acted without thought for protocol or her own safety. She saw a life in danger and acted to preserve it, using knowledge and methods that our own medical traditions could not provide quickly enough. General Nam Jihun watched from the human diplomatic section, his mind racing through the implications of the Emperor's words. A formal life debt in Valyrian culture was one of the most serious relationships possible. It placed obligations on both the debtor and the creditor that could last for generations. Furthermore, Emperor Veltar announced, the success of combining human and Valyrian medical approaches has shown us that our empire is stronger when different forms of knowledge work together. We have been foolish to dismiss human capabilities simply because their methods differ from our traditions. Minister Kim Haesung felt his heart racing as he realized where this speech was leading. The Emperor was not just thanking Hana for saving his life. He was making a statement about the relationship between humans and Valyrians throughout the Empire. Therefore, the Emperor declared, we hereby elevate Hana to the position of Imperial Medical Advisor, with full authority to establish programs combining human and Valyrian healing methods. She will work directly with our royal physicians to develop new treatments that incorporate the best knowledge from both our peoples. The silence in the great hall was complete. No human had ever held such a high position in the imperial government. The idea that a former cleaning servant could become an advisor to the emperor himself challenged everything the Valerian nobility believed about the natural order of their society. Dr. Kethvar, who had initially opposed Hana's intervention, stepped forward and bowed deeply. Your Majesty, I wish to publicly acknowledge that the human's method saved your life when our traditional approaches would have required too much time. I pledge my full cooperation in developing these new integrated treatments. This statement from the Empire's most respected physician carried enormous weight. If Dr. Kethavar accepted human medical knowledge as valuable, other Valerian doctors would be forced to reconsider their own prejudices. Princess Mirai also stepped forward. I have observed the effectiveness of combined human and Valerian medicine firsthand. I believe this integration could revolutionize healthcare throughout the Empire and save countless lives. The imperial heir's support made the emperor's decision politically secure. Even nobles who might oppose expanding human influence could not argue against the princess's judgment. Hana herself seemed overwhelmed by the sudden transformation in her status. Just 4 days ago, she had been cleaning windows and arranging flowers. Now she was being appointed to one of the highest medical positions in the Empire. Your Majesty, she said carefully, I am honored by your trust, but I am only one person with limited knowledge. True progress will require cooperation between many human and Valerian medical experts. The Emperor smiled at her humble response. Wisdom often comes from those who understand the limits of their own knowledge. You will have whatever resources and personnel you need to build this new medical program. Captain An Jiwan, watching from the security section, marveled at how completely the situation had changed. 4 days ago, we were worried about humans overstepping their place in Valerian society. Now one of our people is being given authority that most Valerian nobles could never achieve. The ceremony continued with the formal presentation of Hana's new rank and responsibilities. She received the crystal pendant that marked her as an imperial advisor, the first human ever to wear such a symbol of authority. The weight of the pendant seemed to represent the enormous responsibility she was accepting. As the assembly concluded, nobles and officials began approaching Hana to introduce themselves and offer their cooperation. Many of them had never spoken directly to a human before, but her new position demanded their respect regardless of their personal feelings. Dr. Lee Suman, the senior human researcher, was among the first to congratulate Hana. This appointment opens possibilities we never imagined, she said excitedly. With imperial backing, we can establish research facilities and training programs that will benefit both our species. But not everyone in the hall was pleased with the emperor's decision. Some traditional nobles whispered among themselves about the dangers of elevating aliens to positions of real authority. They worried that this could lead to further erosion of traditional Valerian dominance in their own empire. Lord Mekthan, one of the most conservative members of the Imperial Council, approached Minister Kim after the ceremony. This precedent concerns many of us, he said bluntly. Today it is medical advice. Tomorrow, humans may seek authority in other areas of imperial governance. Minister Kim chose his words carefully. Lord Mekthan, Advisor Hana earned her position by saving the Emperor's life through superior knowledge and skill. Merit, not species, determined this appointment. The debate would continue in private chambers and council meetings for weeks to come, but the Emperor's decision was final. Hana had been elevated from servant to advisor, and the relationship between humans and Valerians in the Empire would never be the same. As the crowd dispersed, Hana found herself standing alone before the crystal throne, still wearing her simple uniform but now bearing the crystal pendant of imperial authority. The transformation felt surreal, like waking up in someone else's life. Emperor Veltar approached her privately after the formal ceremony ended. You seem troubled by your elevation, he observed. I am grateful, Your Majesty, Hana replied honestly, but I worry about the expectations this creates. I am just one person who happened to have the right knowledge at the right moment. Perhaps, the Emperor said with a knowing smile, but that moment revealed something important about the potential for our peoples to work together. You have given us a glimpse of what we might achieve when we combine our different strengths, instead of insisting on the superiority of our separate traditions. 6 months after the Emperor's medical crisis, the Valerian Empire was experiencing changes that no one could have predicted. The success of combining human and Valerian medical techniques had sparked interest in cooperation between the two species in ways that went far beyond medicine. Dr. Lee Suman stood in the center of the new Imperial Medical Research Facility, watching human and Valerian doctors work side by side in laboratories that had been unimaginable just a year before. The building itself was a marvel of combined architecture, with human practical design merged with Valerian crystal technology to create spaces that served both species perfectly. Hannah had been working 18 hours a day to establish the research programs that would study how human and Valerian medicine could be integrated. She had recruited the best medical experts from both species, bringing together minds that had never collaborated before. The results were already exceeding everyone's expectations. We have documented over 300 cases where combined human-Valerian medical techniques achieved better results than either approach alone, Dr. Lee reported to the weekly Research Council meeting. The success rate for cardiac emergencies has improved by 60% since we implemented the hybrid protocols. The research facility had become a symbol of what was possible when different forms of knowledge were combined rather than kept separate. Human doctors learned to work with Valerian energy healing, while Valerian physicians studied human surgical techniques and emergency medicine. Dr. Kethvar, who had become one of the strongest supporters of the integrated approach, presented his latest findings. The human method of direct physical intervention creates optimal conditions for energy healing to penetrate damaged tissue. We can now treat injuries that were previously considered untreatable. The success in medicine had encouraged other areas of cooperation. Human engineers were working with Valerian crystal technology specialists to develop new forms of energy generation. Valerian scientists were sharing their advanced knowledge of biological systems with human researchers. The exchange of knowledge was creating innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Lieutenant Colonel Oh Tae-hyun, now serving as Director of Human-Valerian Security Cooperation, observed the changes with amazement. A year ago, humans were barely tolerated in the Empire. Now we have joint research teams, shared facilities, and integrated training programs. Hana's actions that day started a revolution. Emperor Veltar visited the research facility regularly, his personal experience with hybrid medical treatment making him a passionate advocate for continued cooperation. His support gave the integration efforts imperial backing that overcame resistance from traditional elements in Valerian society. This facility represents the future of our empire, the emperor declared during one visit. When different forms of knowledge work together, we achieve results that surpass what either could accomplish separately. Princess Mirai had become the official liaison between the imperial government and the research programs. She spent considerable time at the facility, learning about both human and Valerian approaches to science and medicine. Her involvement ensured that the integration efforts had high-level political support. The cooperation between our species is producing benefits we never anticipated, she told a gathering of imperial ministers. Human practical engineering combined with our crystal technology is creating new possibilities for transportation, communication, and energy systems. The changes were not limited to the research facility. Throughout the empire, local hospitals were beginning to implement hybrid medical protocols. Human medical officers were being assigned to major Valerian medical centers, while Valerian healers were learning to work in human-style emergency situations. Dr. Park Sejin, who had been appointed as director of the Integrated Medical Education Program, was developing new training courses that taught both human and Valerian medical students how to work with techniques from the other species. The program was revolutionary in its approach to medical education. We are training a new generation of healers who understand both physical intervention and energy healing, she explained to visiting officials. These doctors will be able to provide care that is far superior to traditional single-species medicine. The success of the medical integration had also created economic opportunities for humans throughout the empire. Human medical knowledge was now valued and sought after, leading to better employment opportunities and higher social status for the human population. Captain Yoon Seokjin, the new coordinator of human workforce development, reported significant improvements in human living conditions throughout the empire. Employment opportunities for humans have increased by over 200%. We are no longer seen as useful curiosities but as valuable contributors to imperial society. However, Not all the changes were welcomed by everyone. Some traditional Valerian nobles continued to resist the integration efforts. Worried that human influence was growing too quickly and too extensively, Lord Velkan, leader of the traditionalist faction, expressed his concerns at an imperial council meeting. The rapid elevation of human status threatens the natural order that has maintained imperial stability for thousands of years. We risk losing our cultural identity in this rush to embrace alien methods. These concerns led to heated debates in the Imperial Council about the proper limits of human Valerian integration. Some argued for maintaining clear boundaries between the species, while others pushed for even greater cooperation and shared authority. Minister Kim Haesung found himself at the center of these political discussions, working to balance human interests with Valerian concerns about cultural preservation. Integration does not mean the loss of individual cultural identity, he argued. Both species can maintain their unique characteristics while working together in areas of mutual benefit. The debates were complicated by the undeniable success of the integration programs. Even critics had to acknowledge that the combined medical techniques were saving lives and that the joint research efforts were producing remarkable innovations. Emperor Veltar ultimately settled the debate with a royal decree that established clear guidelines for human Valerian cooperation. The decree recognized humans as full participants in imperial society while preserving traditional Valerian cultural practices and governmental structures. Our empire has always been strong because we embraced the best ideas and methods available to us, the emperor announced. The integration of human knowledge makes us stronger, not weaker. We will continue these programs while respecting the traditions that have served us well. The research facility continued to expand, with new laboratories and training centers being added regularly. The success of the initial medical integration had created momentum for cooperation in other fields, including engineering, agriculture, and even military technology. As Hana walked through the facility she had helped create, she reflected on how much had changed since that desperate day when she knelt beside the dying emperor. Her decision to act despite protocol and prejudice had not only saved one life but had opened possibilities for cooperation that were transforming an entire empire. The facility buzzed with activity as researchers from both species worked together on projects that would have been impossible for either to accomplish alone. The sound of collaboration had replaced the silence of separation, creating a harmony that benefited everyone involved. 5 years had passed since the day Hana saved Emperor Veltar's life, and the Valerian Empire had become something entirely new. The integration of human and Valerian knowledge had transformed not just medicine, but every aspect of imperial society. What had begun as an emergency medical procedure had evolved into a complete reimagining of how two different species could work together. Hana stood in her office at the top of the Imperial Medical Complex, looking out over a city that had changed dramatically. The skyline now showed buildings that combined Valerian crystal architecture with human engineering principles. Transportation systems used hybrid technology that was faster and more efficient than anything either species had developed alone. The medical complex itself had grown into a vast network of hospitals, research centers, and training facilities that served the entire empire. Human and Valerian medical students learned together, creating a new generation of healers who understood both species' approaches to health and healing. Dr. Choi Minho, who had recently graduated from the integrated medical program, represented this new generation perfectly. He was equally skilled in human emergency medicine and Valerian energy healing, able to switch between methods or combine them as needed for each patient. The hybrid techniques are becoming standard practice throughout the empire, he reported during the monthly medical council meeting. We are now treating patients from dozens of different species using methods that adapt to each one's specific physiology. The empire had indeed expanded beyond just humans and Valerians. The success of the integration had attracted other alien species who wanted to join a society that valued different forms of knowledge and cooperation. Each new species brought their own medical traditions and scientific understanding, creating an ever-richer pool of knowledge to draw from. Emperor Veltar, now in his later years but still healthy, thanks to ongoing hybrid medical care, had become known throughout the galaxy as a leader who promoted interspecies cooperation. His personal experience with life-saving human medicine had made him a powerful advocate for embracing diversity rather than fearing it. Our empire is stronger because we learn to value knowledge, regardless of its source, he said, during a speech to the Galactic Council. The day my life was saved by human medicine taught me that wisdom can come from the most unexpected places. Princess Mireille, now ruling as co-regent due to her father's advancing age, had made interspecies cooperation the cornerstone of imperial policy. Under her leadership, the Empire had become a model for other galactic civilizations struggling with diversity and integration challenges. We discovered that our differences are sources of strength, not weakness, she told visiting ambassadors from other worlds. When we combine our various forms of knowledge and expertise, we achieve things that none of us could accomplish alone. The changes had not been without challenges. Some traditional Valyrians had struggled to accept the rapid transformation of their society. Some humans had found it difficult to adapt to their new status and responsibilities. But the overall success of the integration had created momentum that overcame most resistance. General Park Hyun-woo, now serving as Director of Integrated Defense Forces, commanded military units that included personnel from multiple species working together with combined technologies. The military integration had been particularly successful because it built on the proven medical cooperation model. Our defense capabilities have improved dramatically, he reported to the Imperial Security Council. Combined human tactical thinking with Valyrian energy, weapons and other species specialized skills creates military effectiveness that no single species force could match. The economic benefits of integration had been enormous. Trade relationships with other worlds had expanded as the Empire became known for its innovative hybrid technologies. The standard of living had improved for all species within the Empire, as new opportunities and resources became available. Minister Lee Ji-young, the current Director of Economic Development, presented statistics that showed remarkable growth across all sectors. Interspecies cooperation has increased our overall productivity by over 400% while creating new industries we never imagined possible, but perhaps the most important changes were social and cultural. The rigid hierarchy that had once defined Valyrian society had been replaced by a more flexible system that valued contribution and expertise over species and birth status. Humans and other aliens could now achieve positions of real authority based on their abilities and knowledge. Dr. Kim Sun-hee, one of Hana's former assistants who now ran her own research laboratory, exemplified these changes. She led a team that included Valyrians, humans, and 3 other alien species working together to develop new treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. We no longer think in terms of human medicine or Valyrian medicine, she explained to new students. We think in terms of the best possible medicine, using knowledge and techniques from wherever they come. The research facility had become a pilgrimage site for medical professionals from across the galaxy who wanted to study the integration methods that had proven so successful. The techniques developed there were being implemented on hundreds of worlds, saving lives and improving healthcare throughout known space. Captain An Sung-min, now responsible for facility security and diplomatic protection, watched the constant stream of visitors with pride. This place has become a symbol of what different species can achieve when they work together, instead of maintaining artificial barriers. Hana herself had become something of a legend, though she remained remarkably humble about her role in starting the transformation. She continued to work directly with patients while also overseeing the vast network of integrated medical facilities that now serve the Empire. I was just doing my job, she would tell the many reporters and historians who interviewed her about that crucial day. I saw someone who needed help and I helped them. Everything that followed came from other people recognizing that cooperation works better than separation. But those closest to her understood that her actions had required tremendous courage. In a society where humans were considered inferior, she had risked everything to challenge established authority and insist that her knowledge was valuable. Her willingness to act had opened doors that had seemed permanently closed. The Emperor's private study had become an informal meeting place where the most important decisions affecting the Empire's future were discussed. Hana was a regular participant in these sessions, her practical experience and unique perspective valued by leaders from all species. Your actions that day did more than save my life, Emperor Veltar told her during one such meeting. They proved that true wisdom recognizes value regardless of its source. That lesson has transformed our entire civilization. As evening approached and the twin suns set over the imperial capital, Hana often walked through the medical complex, observing the work that continued around the clock. In the emergency rooms, human and Valyrian doctors worked together to save lives using techniques that combined the best of both species' knowledge. In the research laboratories, scientists from multiple worlds collaborated on projects that would benefit all of them. The transformation was complete, but it was also ongoing. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities as the Empire continued to grow and evolve. New species joined the community, each bringing their own knowledge and perspectives to add to the collective wisdom. Looking back, Hana realized that her moment of decision beside the dying emperor had been about more than just medical technique. It had been about the courage to act when action was needed, regardless of social barriers or conventional thinking. It had been about recognizing that knowledge and compassion were more important than protocol and prejudice. The crystal spires of the imperial palace still gleamed under the twin suns, but they now reflected a world where diversity was celebrated rather than merely tolerated. In the medical halls below, healers from many worlds worked together, their cooperation a living testament to the power of courage, knowledge, and the willingness to see beyond the boundaries that separate us. The legacy of that crucial day would continue for generations, as the empire that had learned to value cooperation over conflict became a beacon of hope for civilizations throughout the galaxy. And at the heart of it all was the simple truth that Hana had demonstrated. When someone needs help, you help them, regardless of who they are or where you come from.